Hello, everyone. This is an overview of Chapter 5. And Chapter 5 is what I hope you will think is a really interesting chapter because it focuses on trait theories. And trait theories are the idea that criminality occurs because of some sort of abnormal human condition that an individual might have. Of course, there's a little bit of controversy about some of these theories, and you'll read about some of that in the chapter. But I think it is really interesting to focus on, the two major groups, which are the biological and the psychological. The biological theories are focused on what is happening in the body, whether that is your DNA, or whether that is perhaps how your DNA works with what you eat and your environment, the environment around you. So that's known as the biochemical reaction. So there's a great discussion about sugar intake and how does sugar intake affect children, particularly children who are already maybe a little bit excitable. Or children who are in a bad mood. Is it maybe because they're hungry or they're tired or they're sleepy? The idea of our biology that each of us have individually that is quite unique, and how it is influenced by not just our diet, but also the social environment around us, whether they're environmental contaminants in our social environment. Have we ingested lead somehow in the water we drink, etc.? So some really good, um, some really good discussion there. Also, there is a great discussion about the neuropsychological functions within our bodies, and so of course this is how our brain works, and how our psyche um, and our brain are working together in such a way that perhaps we may see criminal behavior in one person and yet not another, simply because of how that person's brain is structured, and then the psyche, which is the more psychological aspect, because the neurology part is the science part. There's also a really good discussion of evolutionary theories, the evolutionary view, and how it might create criminality in some people. And this is one of the more controversial sets of theories, evolutionary or evolutionary biology theory, it's sometimes called as well, because it's focused on how our ancestors, our human ancestors, say 10,000 years ago when we were living in caves, how cave humans evolved to perhaps uh, engender certain types of behaviors that were beneficial to us to survive. And one of those is the idea of violence and how we may use violence in ways that maybe are not appropriate today. But that's because our human ancestors long ago had to use violence in order to survive, right? To kill off a lion or um, a bear, we had to use violence in order to survive. Because if you were timid and weak and you didn't fight off invaders or animals or other humans, then you might not have survived. So it's a really interesting discussion, and you think about what your own critique of it, or whether you maybe agree with it. Um, and then there's the psychological trait view. The idea that some people simply have some psychological issues that may propel them or induce them to engage in criminal behavior. So, all in all, I think it's a really interesting chapter, and I hope that you enjoy it. I'll see you next week for the overview on chapter 6.